Good morning, K2 and Everest. So sorry I can't be there with you today, but I'm going to go through our slideshow together with you through this video. So hopefully you got the email to this link and you also got the email to this slideshow. It is going to be a normal block schedule class. So you will start off with PLT, which is your playlist work time. For the first beginning of block, and then you will work on project time. And that's the same thing for Everest as well. Playlist first and then project time. So whenever you come into class, you will see a screen that looks something like this on a normal day. The first thing that I want you to do is always to check your email. The reason that we ask you to do that is sometimes they'll email you to invite you to small groups, but also every science presentation that I make for class, I also email you as well. The other thing that you can do is you can check any feedback for your projects. So you could go into your different checkpoints and look at your feedback that teachers have given you. Check the blue line, that's the pacing line, to see any of your due dates to help you make goals for the learning space, which is the platform. And then sometimes we'll have special announcements on slides like these, like to turn documents in, to have small groups, things like that. So you want to make sure that you actually read through the whole thing. And then set a personalized learning goal or a SMART goal for a focus area or project. So what I would like you to do is when you first come into science class is we're going to go over some vocab. So what I need from you is your science notebook. What I'd like you to do is look at the very front of your science notebook. What I want you to do is then flip it over to the back, and then you're going to pivot it to flip it upside down. That is where your science vocab is going to go. You can open up that cover so that you're actually on line paper, and you are going to write all of your science vocab in the very back of your science notebook. Any of your notes you'll take back on the front of the notebook, okay? So we're working from the back towards the front for your vocab and from the front to the back for your notes. So the very first one is your Earth Materials and Systems playlist, which is the very first playlist that you will do for science class. So I have on here 4 different key terms that I want you to know about. The first one is biosphere. This prefix bio means life, and we are talking about Earth, so biosphere is all living things on Earth. Feel free to pause this video so that you can write that definition down, and then you can continue on and go on to the next one. So if I'm going too fast, feel free to pause. You've got the power. Lithosphere and geosphere are the same meaning but 2 different words, and geo means like all like the rocks and stuff like that on Earth. So the lithosphere or the geosphere is mostly solid rocky part of the Earth. It extends from the center of the core to the surface of the crust. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about lithosphere or geosphere. The hydrosphere, hydro, that prefix you might recognize, like if you've ever talked about like hydropower. Hydro means water. So all the water on Earth regulates the temperature by absorbing energy. So the hydrosphere is all of the water on the Earth. And then last but not least, we have the atmosphere. The atmosphere are the layers of gas that surround the Earth, and it is the outermost sphere of the Earth. So, some images of the atmosphere, and the atmosphere we do break it down into different layers. So, whenever you come to science class, you'll always start off on those science key terms, and then you can finish up by setting yourself a SMART goal. So, you might be asking yourself, what do you do during PLT? So, during PLT, you guys are working towards your SMART goal. Typically, this is a 30-minute period that you have. So you want to make sure that your SMART goal that you are setting is attainable in that 30 minutes. You have some options in order to accomplish this SMART goal. You might decide to work independently, which is working alone. You might decide to work with a partner. Remember, if you're doing this, you have the same SMART goal, the same exact SMART goal. You might be working alongside other people, so you might have different SMART goals, but you're sitting with people that if you needed help, you could ask them and they would help you out. But this is not social hour. And then you might choose to work with groups of 3 to 5 people, no more than 5. You must have the same SMART goal, and typically we see that more in project time, but sometimes you see it like when kids need to study together and things like that. Again, this is not a party time. We're giving you this 30 minutes of each block to work on this, as long as you're going to utilize that time. So make sure you're utilizing that time to work towards your SMART goal. You might have gone over this with Mr. Holscher and Mr. Sprendy yesterday, but I'm going to review it a little bit. So what do you do during PLT? You can take your diagnostic assessment, which is like your pre-test, and that'll help you figure out which objectives that you need to look at and maybe fill in some gaps that you might have. You can look over any of the resources, and just because a video worked for you in science doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best strategy to take for math as well, or for English or whatnot. So make sure that you are trying different things in order to figure out what works best for your learning style and for your subject, your matter that you are learning. Taking notes. We want you to take paper, pencil notes, which is why you have a notebook for each class. So make sure you are taking your notes. You can also do practice problems or check for understandings in your notebooks. And I do want to point out that if you are taking a math assessment, there are purple pages that you can find underneath my turn-in tray up at the front countertop. And that's to show your work. So whenever you take a math assessment, you need one of those purple sheets to show your work. So if you have to show your work on your test, you want to make sure you're practicing the same way when you're learning the material. So make sure you are actually writing out your work for math. You have the option to study, you can quiz or review with friends, you can actually take a content assessment, or you might attend a small group. When you are taking a content assessment in my classroom, what I would like you to do is write your name on the board underneath where it says CA requests. That means content assessment requests. You'll write your name up there, and then today, since I'm not there, one of the other teachers is going to come in, sporadically throughout this first 30-minute chunk and approve those tests for you. If you are going to work on a test in my class, what I ask you to do is to work on that test over by the seats around my windows, or at the seats right up front, right by my front countertop. So you're going to find a space. You shouldn't have your notes with you. This is an actual test. You shouldn't be chatting with a neighbor when you're doing it. It is a test, so you're going to treat it as if it's like a paper pencil test that you used to take. So that's how you're going to take a content assessment. During PLT time, please, please, please don't play games on your computers. Make it a social hour, distract others, read books that aren't like a part of your project, visit websites that are going to get you distracted from your SMART goal, or play on your cell phone. So your very first science playlist is called Earth Materials and Systems playlist. I used to make checklists, but now the platform actually checks off the resources once you've clicked on them and used them. Which is a great thing. But if you'd like a paper copy, these are still available. I have a silver filing cabinet in the front of my classroom, and the very tippy top drawer is where these checklists are located, and that whole top drawer is also filled with any resources that I could print from the platform. So if you're someone who's like, I really like to read things printed out so that I can highlight them or underline things or whatnot, or jot notes off to the side, feel free to go up in my silver filing cabinet in that top drawer and help yourself to any of those resources. It's only the resources that I was able to print off. So, since we talked about PLT, what I'd like you to do is set a SMART goal. It might not be 30 minutes because you will be finished by 9 o'clock today, and I believe around 11:50-ish. for my Everest class. So make sure, based on what time you are finishing right here, that you are setting your SMART goal based on that time. So you have 3 things that you can do. The first thing is you need both of your success playlists done. Okay, there are 2 there. One is called Success Class and the other one's called Habits of Success. Both of those should be green. If they are not, set your SMART goal for one of those. If you are finished with both of your Success Class, then you can work on your Science playlist. Our very first Science playlist is called Earth, Materials, and Systems, and you've already defined 4 of the major key terms for this playlist. So set yourself a SMART goal for that playlist if you haven't done so. And if you finished these 2 and you finished one Science playlist, then you can work on a Math playlist. Just know that when you go to Math class, you will be working on a Math playlist. That's why it's number 3 on my list, because you will get Math today and you will be working on Math playlists. Again, if you're requesting a content assessment, please write your name on the board, and then you will take that content assessment near the tables near my windows or up at the very, very front of my room.